I don't know who you worked with over there, but we're way better people than them, and I don't even know them. I just want to please put me down for that. We put me down for that.
Oh, definitely.
Greg and Joe and Bob and Steve and Harry and Lynn and Clyde, we're way better than all of them. Don't you think? Is that a fair point?
Did the Texans drive you so crazy you had to get out of Houston?
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Hey, I just said I can't take this anymore.
All right. So RJ, great to have you back, brother. We're glad you're back. It's going to be a lot of fun having RJ Saunders. He will be our producer every day, and you'll hear from Gibby some throughout the course of the day, including updates on our show when he gets back.
Our NBA knowledge has just skyrocketed.
Yeah,
which is huge.
Yeah, it has.
That's a concern for Loser Monday.
Yeah, our NBA knowledge has. For people that don't know, RJ's a big NBA fan. We did not have a particularly high starting point. Okay,
no.
so there is that. RJ and I had lunch last week. I said, RJ, we don't know the NBA very well. He said he'll fill in the gaps for us.
Beautiful.
Now, RJ's from Los Angeles, right? RJ from Los Angeles originally, right? And so big Lakers fan.
Huge.
Now, so give me your list of favorite teams in order, all of them. I need a list of the RJ teams. Lakers 1.
Lakers 1, Jags 2.
Okay.
Dodgers 3.
Lakers, Jags, Dodgers. Okay, I like it. Anybody else? Any college teams? Any Houston teams? Anybody else? Or just those 3?
I've drank the Kool-Aid and I'm an Orlando Magic fan.
Okay.
A hacker.
Okay, good. I'll buy it.
And yeah, I wasn't able to become a huge fan of any of the Houston teams with my time being so short.
Yeah.
It seems like the Houston Rockets may be on the come up a little bit. It's still a young team, but yeah, my top 4 are going to be Lakers, Jags, Dodgers, and Magic.
Okay, and you'll be ready for this show because Rick Ballou told me the other day that he broke you in just right. Is that true? Can you confirm or deny that?
Oh, he hemmed me up in the corner. He gave me the rundown.
Okay, good. Okay, so there you go. So, well, it's great to have you back. We're glad you're here. A lot of things to talk about today on the program. Practice tomorrow. They hit. I like hitting. Hitting will be good.
Just don't get hurt.
Just don't get hurt. Boy, it was hot. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't practice yesterday. It was hot yesterday. Were you at the beach? You go to the beach with the kids yesterday?
I actually did not.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when we were going to go late, and then it stormed.
It was hot.
That was a heck of a storm.
Yeah.
It was hot yesterday.
It was hot. It was very hot.
I mean, yesterday, and then all of a sudden, boom, storm came out of nowhere. It was like, but I mean, it was hot. All right, lots of things to get to today on the program. We'll certainly talk a lot about the Jags. We're all at camp today. We'll kind of give you a camp rundown of today. Not all that different than the other days. You're going to hear from some interesting players. We're going to start with Zay Jones. Hayes does such a great job tracking them down every day. 2 players today because you were out there Saturday and today.
Correct.
Zay and Brandon Sheriff is who we're going to hear from. Who did you talk to first?
Sheriff on Saturday and Zay today.
Okay, because I want to start with Zay. He's a really interesting storyline for me because he's a really good player that nobody's talking about. We are so caught up in the Ridley madness, as we should be, because it's obvious how special he is. Christian Kirk proved last year how special he was. Evan Ingram's the guy, the tight end, but he's kind of a receiver. He's been all in the news because he got the deal right before camp, right? Nobody's talking about Zay Jones. Yet he was, honest to God, he was a really important part of that stuff last year. He doesn't get the credit that he should because of all the other stuff that happened, Doug and Trevor and the great run at the end of the season. But Zay Jones was a gigantic, and not just a long over route that scored the touchdown against the Chargers that everyone talks about. He was a really important part of all that.
He really was. I mean, one of my favorite parts in the schedule release video that they did that was so brilliant is the scene where Zay is sitting down in the end zone with Asher,
right,
the head writer,
right,
and he's like, "Oh, that's right, you gave me the catch against the Ravens,
right.
yeah." And they're kind of going through the highlights, like, "Yeah, you're my guy." Yeah. And so it does make you think about all the clutch plays that Zay Jones made, and it was a fun interview because he went really in depth into Trevor, really in depth into what he kind of works on. And his strategy in practice, it was really cool and insightful.
Yeah. By the way, Asher thinks seriously. Asher told me afterwards, Zay could be an actor because he's got the look. You know, I mean, he's got the look. He's got the demeanor. I mean, he could be an actor. He could. So it'd be fun.
He had a huge day today, I thought, and it was almost fitting that you were going to talk to him, Hayes, after the crowd went wild.
Yeah, the Jaguars have posted this as they always do such a great job getting all the highlights of the workout, and he had a catch today over Clay Brooks, deep downfield that was spectacular.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there were more bombs today, weren't they? There were about 3 or 4 today and I'll give those guys credit. Trevor threw most of them. I thought about 4 balls were overthrown. Did you find yourself thinking that, or did all those long ones?
Oh yeah.
I thought they were almost every one of
Well,
them.
we've had a lot of days of overthrown
Yeah,
passes, so
yeah,
that would make
I
sense.
get, but I thought they were all overthrown, honestly. And every one of them were catches and touchdowns. Yeah, it was a fun day today. I thought today, I wasn't there Friday, I've been at all the other ones. I thought between Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and today, so I've been to 4 of the 5. I thought today was the most fun day for the fans. Did you feel that way?
Yes.
I thought today. Did you get that
Other
impression?
than maybe the first day, just because they were so excited to get out there, and that was the first time some of them got to see Calvin work out.
It's an air show.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's how it's been.
We'll see if it slows down once the pads go on tomorrow. But through these first 5 workouts, I mean, it has been an air show between what obviously Ridley's done. I mean, he's been head and shoulders the MVP of training camp. And then, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram has done some good things. Some of the lesser known receivers have made plays. So, I mean, it's, again, it gets you so excited about September 10th and beyond, because I do not think there's going to be very many defenses that can stop them.
You would think when things are going right in this very offensive era that we're in, that this will be one of those ones. That's one of the things I want to talk about today. That this will be one of the good ones. Everyone's trying to get there. Everyone's trying to become the passing team because we've now watched enough times that we figured out that's who's winning, right? And I want to talk about whether or not how this team matches up to passing games around the league, not just Kansas City, but there are some other ones. So we'll certainly get to that. That comes up in the program today as well. The Graham Mertz Heisman campaign began today.
That's right.
I heard I read that he looked I read that he looked sharp today. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got my mailer from Florida.
Yeah.
And launching the marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And I saw on Twitter that he completed a nice 5-yard screen to left. That got me really excited.
Yeah, well, I got a call too from Florida today, and they said in the event that we have 3 seats in the downtown athletic club, or if they have it now, I think that burned down. But if they in the event that they have 3 seats, do you want Rick Hurtado called me?
Yeah.
It's for the Heisman presentation. Toretta always gives me seats. Do you want 3 for you, Hayes, and Lauren? I said, me and Lauren, but not Hayes. Because Hayes is a hater. I said, so.
I am a hater.
So Lauren,
You guys have fun in New York.
Lauren, there'll be an empty seat next to you. Okay, we'll see if one of our other guys wants to go.
Perfect.
Maybe Graham Cam will go. He's a big hater. We'll find somebody like that because I told him. So I went in and sent it back. You declined to see at the Heisman ceremony for Graham Mertz. Okay. Now when you regret that, don't come back.
Right.
Don't come back when they're 9-0.
Does Mertz's dad belong to the Downtown Athletic Club? Is that why he would be there?
In the event that they rebuild it, he does. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Let's start with the Jaguars. I want you to hear from Zay Jones today. He's a neat guy. He's a good player. He, like others, sort of found himself here last year. But he's the receiver nobody's talking about. Brandon Sheriff in our next segment after that. We'll talk about that. The Gators are on the field for the first time today. We'll talk about that. I thought Peter King's first column back was really interesting today. A lot of the Aaron Rodgers stuff I thought really found interesting. We'll talk about that. More talk about the Big 12. Arizona looks like it could be next. A lot to do on the program. Glad you're with us. Good to welcome our friend R.J. Saunders back to the program. This is 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the Hastings Injury Law Firm Studios on
Yeah,
1010XL.
No, you're good. I got to do a spot. So, move it however you want.
Just have that ready, RJ, okay? Have it ready? You got it ready to go?
Yeah.
I'll throw to it.
All right.
It's a Best Bet Monday on the Frangie Show with fantastic locations in Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now in St. Augustine. It's Best Bet.
I saw it happen. Carline got a hold of RJ. Give me some of that 80s.
That's right, a little modern English.
Give me some of that 80s Valley Girl kind of stuff. That's what happened, isn't it?
That is
I
what.
saw y'all in there talking. That's what you were doing. Now I
It slipped
know.
him a cool 20.
Take on me is
I saw you walk into the control room.
That's
and,
very good. How about that? Nothing can stop us now.
No, that was pretty funny. So today, Zay Jones is the latest in Hayes. If you haven't been listening, you have by now probably these last few years. Hayes does such a good job of catching up with Jaguar players throughout the course of the season. One-on-one interviews, get to know them, get to know where their vibe is. Zay is one of the most interesting ones to me because he's a really good player who's got a really important role that hasn't been talked about nearly as much as some of the other receivers. Earlier today, Hayes Carline and Zay Jones.
All right, we are pleased to be joined on 10XL 92.5 FM with Jack.
does matter. So it does matter. I would answer it almost exactly the way Hayes did. I would suggest that if you asked me if they were keeping 5 and you asked me which of the 5 were going to be on the team, I would say Parker Washington, I think. But if it's because of special teams, I don't know. But I would say I think Hayes hit it. My guess is that's the 6. Yeah, obviously for the first 3 plus Agnew, and then Washington because they drafted him to be on the team, and he really is the backup slot guy. He's the next Christian Kirk type player.
And I think he looks good.
He does
I think
look
he's
good.
having a nice start to camp.
He's physical. I agree with you. He looks just like Kirk. He's built. He's stocky. He's physical. I think he looks good too. And something, Lauren, you've noticed every time you and I talk out of camp, they like Tim Jones. You can tell they do. He's out there.
He's
like,
run with the ones many times so far this camp.
So they like Tim Jones. So I would say, which makes it interesting. We were talking during the handoff with Mia and Joe and Matt. There's a lot of guys out there that they kind of like that in past years would be Hayes the 5th or 6th guy. I'm not saying they would have been first, second, or third guy, but there's guys out there that would be the 5th or 6th guy. That and I think Kevin Austin's one of them. I think there's a handful that will be practice roster at best this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I sort of feel that way about the roster in general. I mean, I think it is going to be a tough cut to 53. There are not a lot of positions where it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty easy. You just cut it right there, and then the rest of the guys that aren't going to make it, don't really bring a whole lot to the table. I mean, I think they've got really, really good depth compared to what we're used to seeing here, and certainly a receiver. I think that's going to be interesting. Now, I do think you're going to see the pads go on, and some of those guys are going to fall off. It's just every training camp. It won't be the top guys; they're used to it, but it's going to be big for the guys that are in that 6 to 9 range that have done some nice things. Are they able to keep that going once the defensive backs can be more physical?
Right, and there's one position I want to talk about when we come back about a bit of a logjam. We talked about that today too, Lauren. You and I were, I think. So there's one position where there's a bit of a logjam that I really want to get into. We'll get into that in our next segment. Also hear from Brandon Sheriff in our next segment. But let's stay on receivers for a second. If I ask you best passing games, that means quarterback, receivers, scheme, confidence, the whole bit. Obviously, everybody would say Kansas City and Cincinnati and Buffalo and whatever order. I think that'd be the easy 3. Then it gets interesting. Or the Chargers with those 2 veteran receivers and Justin Herbert right there.
The Eagles.
The Eagles certainly have become that A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts has certainly become more than just a runner. He's a good passer. They're in there. They have a really good team. What will Aaron Rodgers do with his receivers there? Where are the Jaguars in that conversation? And that doesn't mean just where's Trevor. That the passing combo, quarterback, receivers, including tight end, play caller. Where are they when you add that up? You don't have to hit right on the head. It's ballpark.
5th?
Think? What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If I look at all the individuals, I would go 4th or 5th because there's no holes.
That's the thing.
They're good at every spot. But if I look collectively, I probably would have them a little lower until I've seen them do it more. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would just. But if you break it up by spot, where's your weakness? You take the top off superstar perhaps in Ridley. You got Kirk, who's as good a slot guy as there is in the league. You got Zay Jones. If Zay Jones is your 3rd guy, you're really good. You got Evan Ingram, who's a really good down the field pass catching tight end. You got Trevor and Doug. And if you want to throw in running back, pass catching running back, so there's not many teams that have better pieces. But if I put it all together, I don't know where I'd have it. My gut tells me I'd land more closer to 6 or 7.
I think the Jaguars could end up being ahead of the Bills.
Yeah.
It's the Chiefs. We don't know what they're going to be, but we said this a year ago when they lost Tyreek Hill and they were Super Bowl champions. Yeah. It's just because of their quarterback that no matter who else is in really Kelsey, that they are going to be successful.
You're right. He is almost replaced, even though he's a different playing style. Patrick Mahomes has really replaced Tom Brady in the it doesn't matter who his receivers are category. Peyton Manning, I didn't say that. As good as Peyton Manning was, he needed Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Dallas Clark and Edge. They were all great together. I thought Tom Brady, it really didn't matter. If I asked you to tell me the top 3 running backs for the Patriots in the Brady era, you throw out Ridley or you throw out Falk, right? But there's not there's not a lot of guys that would jump off the page for you.
No. I mean, I think Manning elevated players too.
No
but
question.
It was more in the back half of that run when Marvin and Reggie were getting a little older, and then they were able to produce 1,000-yard seasons with like Austin Collie and guys like that.
You're right.
But certainly Brady really, other than having Randy Moss for that brief period, really always
They were ordinary.
He had Gronk.
pretty ordinary.
And Gronk at the
Yeah,
end.
and Mahomes has Kelsey. It's very
Yeah.
similar.
But very good point. But Mahomes is that guy now. Mahomes is now the guy. To me, Mahomes is now the guy that it really doesn't completely matter. Now, again, he's had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in his career. That's pretty good guys for someone I'm saying it doesn't matter. I get that.
And Kadarius Toney could have a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
Could.
Yeah. That's right. And he's a really good player. So.
There's real concern that he will not be ready for the Jaguar game.
Yeah. I've heard that too. Read that too.
Good darn.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about maybe a log jam at one spot for the Jaguars, and also I want you to hear from a real leader among the offensive line. Hayes has yet another one-on-one coming up. This is 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the Hastings.
Great. Aaron,
Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now in St. Augustine. It's Best Bet.
Frank Frangie, Hayes Carline, Lauren Brooks, RJ Saunders with you as we continue along. RJ with the hard shirt on. RJ, you're telling me you're a pretty good free throw shooter, right?
Yeah, I'm not bad.
So if we have a,
Whoa.
no, RJ told me that free throw
Development.
he said free throw shooting is his thing. Didn't you tell me that at lunch the other day?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we had, you'd go, I'm an older guy, you'd go easy on me, wouldn't you, if we have a little free throw shooting thing, wouldn't you? You wouldn't wanna make an old guy look bad, I mean,
Absolutely not.
no telling how many, I mean, I might not even make very many of those days, I mean, I'll, you know.
It's gonna be quite a battle.
I hope, I'm just trying to get, well, you know what I'm trying to do? Just stay, just not get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll drag RJ up the string.
RJ, you're being hustled right now.
We'll
Oh, absolutely.
I'm 64 years old, RJ, I have no chance in this battle with a young hoop stud. Would you agree,
Hey,
Brooks?
when he gets put down, you know he's not missing.
So that's RJ's a good, some of my buddies have played basketball. You played that early morning game, right, RJ? At the JCA?
Yeah.
Some of my buddies have said, RJ's a pretty good player. I'll just go ahead and tell you, some of my buddies say RJ's a pretty good player, yeah, I've heard that, so there you go. Not just RJ's a humble guy, he won't tell you, but my buddies say he's a pretty good player. So there's that.
Well, then it's going to be a very fun free throw shooting contest
Yeah.
between the two of you, and Hayes and I will cheer you both on.
So there's that. The Gators on the field for the first time today. We were laughing, we were looking through the video. Florida showed up video. I thought you were kidding when you said it earlier. You weren't. It was a Grant Marsh throw a little swing pass to
Webb.
Trayon Webb, the Trinity guy. Tell you what, you think how many quarterbacks in the country could make that throw?
Caleb Williams doesn't make that.
Making that throw.
Caleb Williams is keeping it.
So what is the vibe? You follow it all. We follow it all. They're on the field. We've told the story enough times that when Billy Napier was with us in Nashville, he's annoyed by everyone thinking they're going to stink. They don't seem to think so. They had their media day Sunday and said kind of all the same stuff, right? We know stuff other people don't know. What you got on the vibe about them? Not how good though. We've had that conversation enough times. But good vibe, you think?
I think it is a good vibe. I think it starts with at least the steadiness that I think Mertz provides. He has won 19 games as a quarterback playing in Wisconsin, at obviously a high level of football. So to have walked off a field 19 times, a winner in college football, and I get, he's also lost 13 times. He's got 32 starts, but having those 19 positive memories, I think gives him a steadiness that is going to translate well for a young team. But they can't put too much on him. He's just shows no sign of being capable of leading a team by himself. But could he be the leadership piece that can benefit from a strong ground game? I do think defensively they're going to be better. I'm really excited to see their defensive front because now I actually think they've got 10 guys. Many of those are very young, but I think they now have 8 to 10 really potentially strong players there. And so, I think the defensive front has been rebuilt. I think they've got some exciting defensive backs. Dejon Johnson had 2 pick sixes today in his first practice on campus. I mean, that's pretty extraordinary. And again, I have no idea who threw the passes. I'm assuming those were Max Brown balls, but
Downtown Max Brown.
but we don't know. So obviously it's a very tough schedule. But I remain optimistic that they are going to go over and probably well over the Vegas 5.5 win over under. So, I mean, I think they've got a chance to win 7 or 8. I mean, I think that's where they should be if they stay relatively, injury free. Now, if they get crushed with injuries, if they're, if you look up, total missed starts this season, and Florida ranks 12th in the SEC, it's going to be all they can do to make a bowl game. But if they can stay in the top half in terms of attrition, I think they have a chance to surprise some people because I think they have a formula that can work to get to 8 wins with the talent level that they'll have.
I don't think this offense is going to be super powerful or explosive. I think Florida's going to have to be much better on defense and try and win some 20-17 type of games because I don't think Mertz is going to light anybody up. But hopefully he doesn't make those big mistakes that AR made. From what you see as far as practice film goes, they are improved, but it doesn't seem like Mertz is going to be the highlight reel that Trevor Lawrence is day in, day out.
Well, I would agree with that. He's not gonna be, I think I can come with you on the fact that he's probably not gonna be Trevor Lawrence. I'll say this, I was thinking about this before today's show, reading this up about their practices, and I really believe this about the Gators. There's 12 games on the schedule. They're not beating Georgia. I doubt they're winning in Baton Rouge, okay? I have some comfort in saying those two things. Other than that, if they're one of these teams that's tougher and more physical than they've been, that they can play pretty good defense, which is what everyone down there thinks they will be with Austin Armstrong, with the two defensive tackles that have come in from Caleb Banks and Cam Jackson. If they can be more physical and stay in games, my guess is this: they're not winning at Georgia. They're not winning here against Georgia. They're not winning at LSU. The other 10 games, I don't sense that there's a lot they're not going to be in. Okay, they may not win them. They may win 5 of them. I mean, they may wind up 5 and 7. But I would be surprised, even as good as Tennessee has been offensively. The game's in Gainesville. The game's at night. It's Graham Mertz versus Joe Milton. Quite frankly, 2 guys from the Big Ten have played against each other before, and Mertz was better. I'd be surprised if we look up and Tennessee's up 31-10 in that game. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I would be surprised if that's where that game goes. Honestly, unless Cam Rising's really healthy, and by everything you read, the best case for him is to play hurt a little bit. The best case is he'll be able to find a way to start, but he'll be healthier in game 4 than game 1. So again, even that game, I'd be surprised if Florida did beat them last year. I mean, for what it's worth, they did win the game. And so, yeah, I'd be surprised if you asked me to pick winners, I might pick them to lose both those games. But don't you get the sense that other than Georgia and LSU, even Florida State, as good as Florida State is, that game came down to an incomplete pass at the end of the game in Tallahassee at night. It really did. And so, and I think Florida has a better team than it had last year. Maybe not a better quarterback. Quarterback went 4th overall. But I think Florida has a better team than it had last year. And that game came down to a throw at the end zone on the road at night. Now again, I picked Florida State to win today. I picked Florida State to beat them today. But I guess my thinking is if they're more physical and good enough defensively to hang around, other than Georgia and at LSU, my gut would be, I'd be surprised if anybody boat races this team.
Yeah, I would agree, and I do think that. I think defensively, it's been such a horror show that they can't help but be better. It's just a question of will they be light years better? I mean, no one's going to think they're top 20 nationally in terms of the defensive numbers, but the eye test should tell you that they're much improved. Are they going to be greatly improved? That might be asking too much, because they're going to be relying on a lot of young players. But again, this is a team that only has like 5 seniors. I mean, it's incredibly bereft of senior talent, which is really striking because a lot of these guys still have the COVID year. So some of these teams have guys that are 24 years old playing college football, and Florida barely has anybody that's a senior. So they're going to be at an experience disadvantage. And they're going to be playing a lot of true freshmen on the 2 deep. There's no doubt about it. But the good thing is, those freshmen are talented, and it's the best. I think this signing class will ultimately be the best signing class in terms of what they end up producing of any class since Urban Meyer was the Florida coach. I know they weren't like a top 4 rated class, but I'm telling you, the guys that they have brought in, and 93% of them have been on campus since January. I think he's got something really special in the true freshman. I think they identified a really strong group, and and so at least you've got the athletes, which on defense is such a major part of the battle anyway. They're gonna blow assignments. They're gonna miss things, but I think the defensive front is deep enough now and doesn't have. They can rotate 8 guys in there that should all be pretty good players. And I'll tell you a guy to watch out for that Napier singled out. He was one of the guys he singled out, is a Jacksonville kid from Bowles, Jack Pyburn, 6'3", 253-pound edge. He's a true sophomore, played in 8 games last year. Watch out for him. because I think he is going to be a really big-time rotational piece for Florida this year, and I think he is going to make a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage.
And I think if your point is correct, that this freshman class is really good and gets a ton of playing experience and also is good for next year, that's the best case scenario for DJ Lagway, who is standing there watching practice today, because he's going to obviously be a freshman when he is, we assume, as the starting quarterback, unless Graham Mertz does win the Heisman, and then maybe there's a competition at that position.
Yeah, and he also had the big receiver with him today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
Can they get him? I don't follow it.
It still seems like he's going to stick with Ohio State, but for a guy that's committed, I mean, he visits all over the place. He's been at Florida State multiple times. He was at FSU this past weekend before coming down to Florida. Got in last night, spent Monday with the Gators, looking, going over practice, continuing to get to know Lagway. So it's up in the air. If I had to put percentages on it, I'd say 75% Ohio State, and then maybe 15% Florida, 10% Florida State, something like that. But I mean, again, it just seems like Ohio State gets every receiver that they want. So the fact that he's already committed to them
Makes it hard.
makes it hard for me to believe that he's not going to ultimately end up there. But if they get whoever gets him, he's on the 24/7 rankings. He's the #2 overall player in the country. So he would certainly be a statement win for whoever gets his signature in December.
Well, what do you think of Napier? You like Napier? What do you think of Billy Napier?
I think he's, to use Hayes' word about Graham Mertz, I think he's steady.
Yeah.
He doesn't provide the wittiness that we've seen that other
He's
coaches.
never gonna be that guy.
That's not his personality. But I think for a program that's needing to be rebuilt as much as Florida's is, I think he's the stay calm, keep everyone motivated, keep everyone pulling in the right direction. Look, I mean, the growth that the off-season program had for these guys, I mean, a lot of them dropped weight or put on weight depending on their situations. So he's got everybody, I think, pulling in the right direction. Game day wise, I'm still gonna have questions until we see what happens this season. We certainly questioned a lot of his decision making during games last year. But I think as far as Florida fans go, he's the right person for the job.
I'd like to get to know him. See, once I started calling Jaguars games in 14. And since then, my commitment is to the Jacksonville Jaguars. To know the team, to be around the team as much as I can, to know the players, to know the coaches. So I don't get to know the college people very well. I haven't really known a Florida football coach very well since Will Muschamp. That's about what that happened. But he's a guy that I wonder what he's like when he doesn't have a microphone in front of him. When he's not saying right and relative to, because those are the go-tos. He's going to say right about after every sentence, right? And he's going to say relative to.
I'll take that over and yet.
Yeah, I will too. But I think I get the hunch he's a guy that will connect with players. I told you guys that 2 years ago about Mike Norvell. There's something about him that I liked, that I thought he would connect with guys, and it looks like he is. I think this guy, he's even his media day Sunday, he's talking so much about systems and having the systems in place and having the calendar right and I think that's all what's going to make them great. But I think he's probably a regular guy away from his system. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just a guy that can sit there and have a beer or an iced tea or whatever he drinks while the next door neighbor's mowing the lawn and not talk about right and relative to and his systems in place. And I wonder if he's that guy, because you don't see it now in the interviews, and that's okay. But I do wonder about that, because I got a hunch maybe he is.
Yeah, I mean, all the people that are around him day in and day out, from Florida staffers to media, I mean, everybody really seems to be genuinely connected to Napier in a positive way. And he is, I think by almost design, he's a little put you to sleep at the podium. But obviously there's something in there because of, again, I go back to the video that Louisiana put out after they won the conference title,
Right.
and it was the final time he spoke to the Raging Cajuns, and he said, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to the next stop, but
Right.
I love all of you guys, and he just stopped, and they just were like, we love you, and it just became this really emotional scene in the locker room, and you saw that, and a lot of times Spurrier used to talk about this when he left Duke to come to Florida. I think he coached the bowl game,
Right.
and he talked about how some players checked out on him because they knew he was leaving. And it struck me as a feather in Napier's cap that Louisiana's players would have that kind of emotion in a post-game locker room for a coach that a week before they knew and they played well in the game. That was the other thing. They played well in the game, and then obviously were very emotional, celebrating Napier as he walked out the door. Florida will be fine if they just give him time. If Florida gives Billy Napier time, Billy Napier will deliver. I think championship contending teams. It's so hard to say SEC championships because if you win the SEC championship, you probably are going to win the national title or play for it. That's such a high bar. So to say, well, he's going to win a championship. Well, there's no more divisions. So what's he going to? He's going to win an SEC championship, which you might as well say he's going to win a national championship. That's a bold statement for a guy that just had a losing record. But if Florida can be patient with Billy Napier, they absolutely, I think, are going to be rewarded with a team that's going to routinely win double-digit games, is pretty much always going to be in the 12-team playoff, and yeah, I think can contend for the championships at the highest level.
We'll take a break. More in a moment. When we get back, I want to talk a little hardball. That's next. Stay with us.
The Frangie
I think we had
Show,
something
live.
Oh, no, because we were over, I didn't wanna talk
Oh,
to
okay.
you.
My
10XL.
mom had surgery today, and she just called me, so I'm going to call her right back.
Yeah.
I hope it went
Take some
well.
time. Take your time. No rush at all.
Okay. Yeah, I may not be back.
Well, I hope AC Designs does that.
What'd you say?
I hope AC Designs does that. I hope we find a way to get to them.
Well, if not, then we can put our heads together and
Frangie and Carline, Lauren Brooks, RJ Saunders with you. RJ is our new producer. Great to have him on the program with us. Gibby's not going anywhere. He'll be doing updates and all kind of stuff around the radio station, doing a lot of his play-by-play work. Just a little opportunity for him and a little opportunity for RJ. So we're very happy about that. Glad to have RJ with us. On this, a Best Bet Monday, all kind of fun stuff going on at the Best Bet, because there's always great stuff going on at the Best Bet. The Card Player Poker Tour comes to Best Bet Jacksonville August 10th through the 21st. And oh, by the way, $1,500 high hands exist every 30 minutes on Saturday. That's this coming Saturday from 2 to midnight at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and St. Augustine. All right, so, and hey, this one's near and dear to your heart. There's not a lot of baseball that's near and dear to your heart, but this one is. I'm glad Crime Dog got in, Fred McGriff, very deserving. But probably like you, I always felt like I would have rather seen Dale Murphy in first. But for a myriad of reasons, not the least of which was he won back-to-back MVPs, playing on a team that had not been very good before or after. But I didn't realize how badly Fred McGriff's stats dwarfed Dale Murphy's. Did you? I did not.
Yeah, McGriff was just under 500 home runs, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Murphy, I want to say, finished,
Under 400.
I was going to say
398.
398.
They played almost the same amount of years. Now there was a 1 year difference. McGriff played 19 years and Murph played 18 years. And if Murph had hit 30 home runs in that year, it'd been a little closer. But McGriff hit 284 an average. Murph hit 265, so almost 20 points better. McGriff hit 493 home runs. Murph 398, so 100 more, essentially. They did play 1 more year. McGriff knocked in 1,580 runs, Murphy 1,266. I guess I didn't realize, and that's no knock on Dale Murphy, I still think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right, because McGriff was so good as a Padre.
Right, that's right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and had better players around him. Yeah, and Padre played for the Rays at the end, he played around. But I didn't realize, I knew Fred McGriff was a really good player, but I also think Dale Murphy was a really good player. I didn't realize there was that big of a gap between the two.
Yeah, I'd say numerically there's a gap, but I would say from a beloved standpoint,
Right, that's
and
right.
this is no knock on McGriff, but from what they meant to their franchise, can you tell the story of baseball without Dale Murphy? I don't think you can. And so, yeah, I mean, I understand that, you know, he obviously struggled towards the end of his career, but I think Dale Murphy's a Hall of Famer. I'll leap into my grave saying Dale Murphy is a Hall of Famer, or should be, and I hope one day he will be. But yeah, I mean, I understand Fred McGriff was a dominant player in
Really
San
good player,
Diego.
really
I mean, he
good player.
came to Atlanta, and it was like, wow, that Braves got Fred McGriff. I mean, that was massive. How did they do? Was that free agency, or did they trade Fred? I can't remember how they acquired him.
I think free agency, although I don't remember either. That's when the Braves, after the Braves had been bad for so long,
There was a trade.
it was, who
It
they
was at the
trade?
trade deadline.
Okay, oh, they did, they got him at the deadline. But I still don't know that I ever felt like to your point, I don't know that I ever felt like he dominated baseball the way Dale Murphy had a 4-year stretch from 82 through 85. And he really even had a pretty good year a few years before that. But he had a 4-year stretch. He actually was pretty good. In 1980, Dale Murphy had 33 home runs, knocked in 89, batted 281 for a really lousy team. Then listen to these numbers: 82, 36, 109, 281. 1983 MVP year, 36 home runs, 121 ribs, and he hit 302. The next year, 36, 100, batted 290, and the next year, 37, 111, and 300. That 4-year stretch, and by the way, you ready for this? How about this year? In 1983, Dale Murphy had 36 home runs, knocked in 121, batted 302, and stole 30 bases. I mean, he's a 30-30 guy. And, but what history doesn't tell you is that he tailed off. He kept hitting home runs. He had 44 home runs in 87. But boy, when he fell off the cliff, he really fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
And that's what hurt Dale Murphy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, in the brilliance of McGriff, it's just that McGriff was never around, I'd say, any team long enough to become like an icon of that organization. I mean, I didn't realize this. Fred McGriff hit at least 84 home runs for 4 different clubs.
Wow,
I mean, that's unbelievable.
that really is unbelievable.
And there was a 5th club, the Cubs, that he hit
Right.
42 home runs for.
Right.
So, I mean, that's...
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
He belongs in.
See, I forgot that McGriff started with the Blue Jays.
Right.
So he hit 125 with the Blue Jays. Then he goes to the San Diego. He's only there 3 years, but hits 84 home runs. Then he goes to the Braves for 5 years and hits 130. And then goes to the Rays and hits 99. Yeah, I mean, again, I understand. The numbers argument is always going to hurt Dale Murphy. Although I think, obviously his numbers were very good. I think if Scott Rowland is in the Hall of Fame, if Harold Baines is in the Hall of Fame, it's a complete, utter joke that Dale Murphy's not in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
100% agree. Meanwhile, on the field,
By the way, who do you remember McGriff as a player for the most?
The Braves, yeah.
Frank, what about you?
Padres.
Okay.
Padres were Braves, and we followed the Braves closely, but I'll remember him more. I mean, I saw him more as a Brave because everybody did, but I'll remember him as probably a Padre as much as anything, or the Braves. It's close, or the Braves. Meanwhile, at the trade deadline, the Rangers are trying, aren't they? The Rangers have Max Scherzer and Jordan Montgomery. The Angels, to their credit, went out and got Lucas Giolito and another pitcher, and then got C.J. Cron, who could really hit, Randall Grichuk. I tell you what, that is 2 teams over the years that I have not thought of as teams you can count on buying their way. I love that. I mean, who buys? The Yankees and the Dodgers buy, right? And then whoever's the hot team of the
Sometimes
day.
the Red Sox.
The Red Sox, the hot team of the day. I love the Rangers. The Rangers got Scherzer. I mean, they got Max Scherzer.
And he was ready to go.
Yeah, no question. And they got Jordan Montgomery, who's a pretty good left-handed starter. The Angels got Giolito. The Angels are 4 over. The Rangers are 14 over. You said that the Rays finally got a guy today, Aaron Savali, I guess it is.
Correct.
Don't know much about him. The Dodgers got Lance Lynn. Anything surprise you at the deadline? Any surprises?
I guess I would have expected the Braves to do maybe something by now, and certainly the Braves before today to get pitching. I've known all along that was one of their MOs. But yeah, I mean, like you said, teams that are not normally buyers are buyers, and then we talked about it on Friday with Taylor as far as the Cubs. The Cubs, and it seems like maybe the Padres were thought to be sellers and now are no longer going to be. It will be interesting, Frank, because you're seeing rumors of like the Rays potentially getting Blake Snell back. That to me would be a fascinating
I can't get the audio.
reunion, so to speak, because they kind of shipped him off.
I tell you what, he's kind of a punk.
He is kind of a punk, but he's
pretty,
good.
but he's pretty good. I
Yeah.
saw him pitch in Pittsburgh. He's pretty good, man. He's like legit.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's I did not know that. Is that the word? Did they make trade for him?
If the Padres are interested in selling, and that's what people are trying to figure out at this point in time.
By the way,
And I go
the
here.
trade deadline is tomorrow, not today.
Now it's there.
It's always the last day of the month. Always, like either the last day of June, last day of July. I just checked this, for 734 years, it's been the last day.
It's there now.
In the new collective bargaining agreement, they wrote in that Rob Manfred
I got 2 over
can
there.
pick any day he wants
All right.
between the
You wanna
30th
Yeah.
and the 4th.
Thank you.
What are we doing?
Yeah, it's a little weird. And he hasn't announced when it'll
No, it's
be.
tomorrow.
Oh, okay,
It's-
so he
but-
has
but-
announced.
Yeah, it's been tomorrow he announced before the
Okay.
season,
But it's up to him,
yeah, but,
yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change it. Can you say to them going to Goodell and going, Roger, you can set the salary cap. If you wanna add 10 million, add 10 million.
Yeah. It's strange.
It really is strange, so, who do you like? Who do you like now? Who do you like right now?
I mean, I
Braves still the
like
best team.
Braves,
The
yeah.
Braves are still the best
Yeah.
team.
The Rangers are gonna be better though,
Yeah,
and I don't necessarily believe in the Angels, even though they are spending some money.
Are the Giants dangerous? They're only 2 games out.
they're always dangerous. The Giants have enough veteran players. They're 10 games over. They're always dangerous. The Phillies, although the Phillies just lost 2 out of 3 on the west side of the state, let me point that out. But the Phillies have been playing pretty well up until then. Boy, the Orioles are good. I was gonna watch the Orioles last night, because the Orioles made a rare appearance on the Fox game or the ESPN game on Sunday night, whoever it was. So my plan was to watch it, play the Yankees. I turned it on in the second inning, they're up 7-0. The Orioles are good now. I mean, the Orioles are legit good. And I give the Rays credit. The Rays looked like they were leaking oil. They went and won 2 out of 3 in Houston, which I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that, so it'll be
The
good.
bats finally got going.
Yeah, after giving up 17 the day before.
Yeah.
They gave up 17, but then kind of bounced back. So, all right, I think we're ready. I want to get back to the college realm. Colorado's headed to the Pac-12. Everything you hear is that Arizona's next, and a couple other new teams might be in the mix. We'll discuss that after this.
The Frangie Show, live from the Hastings Injury Law Firm Studios on 1010
Graham said
XL.
1:30 Thursday is fine.
With Hastings.
So we decided teal.
Cannot be a team of common
Yeah, we're a teal shirt.
Okay.
because common men go nowhere. You have to be
I know
uncommon.
we wore the black one.
Big T Tire keeps Jack rolling.
1:30 Thursday.
For generations, our team has been dedicated to honest, quality auto service. Whether your vehicle needs tires, custom wheels, brake repairs, or regular maintenance, our experts will treat you like family. With our all-new Orange Park location, it's now easier than ever to get the care of your
Oof,
vehicle.
that's gonna be a tight
on a daily
turnaround.
basis at an affordable
Practice
price.
goes till 11 on
Visit
Wednesday.
BigTire.com or call 904-932-0950 to schedule an appointment today.
What? They did not tell me they were gonna do that. I ain't gonna bank. Well, actually, once
Well,
in a
if we're in the
while, we
shade,
just do the
then it's
usual
fine.
bank surprises because we're not a bank, we're a credit union. And that means lower loan interest, things like free checking and member rewards, and of course, total investment back into our community. So
Yeah, so if you wanna give Ken something for Cutler, like you saw the email, just by Wednesday.
Visit 121fcu.org.
Or maybe by tomorrow.
Open an account today.
Federally insured by NCUA. Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of you at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable.
That was very fortuitous that email came when it did, since we have something
Yeah,
we need to,
that works out. And then it always sounds good when it's a voice like that.
yeah.
It's tune-up time, and Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars, wants to partner with you for a cool summer season. Tune up your AC unit right now so it's running at peak performance when you need it most. Just call 777-4300 and order a tune-up for just $59. Keep your unit humming at optimal level. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com and take advantage of their savings. Keep cool with Florida Home AC. That's 777-4300.
Are you an electrician looking for better pay and benefits? Miller Electric Company has the industry-leading compensation package. Electricians are eligible for a signing bonus up to $1,000. Now, they're partnering with the Jaguars in their new performance facility, Miller Electric Center. Miller Electric has opportunities for you to work on some of the most exciting projects right here in Jackson. Whether you're experienced or not, visit MillerCareers.com, an equal opportunity employer. That's MillerCareers.com.
This day in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On March 31st, 1973, Boston Bruins' Bobby Orr scores his third career hat trick to become the first player in NHL history to score 100 points.
This wasn't how Patrick pictured himself in retirement. Instead of playing golf every day, he could barely walk because of his severe knee pain.
It hampered everything because it hurt to walk around the golf course and it hurt to swing pretty much doing anything.
But the groundbreaking regenerative treatments at QC Kinetics changed everything for Patrick. QC Kinetics uses your body's own healing properties to help repair and restore damaged tissue in your knees, hips, back, and shoulders. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime.
The turnaround has been amazing from where I was to where I am now. I've gone from a 15 handicap down to a 7 handicap because my knees allow me to play golf like I haven't been able to play probably in 15 years.
Don't let joint pain keep you from doing what
They
you
done
love.
that.
Call
They done that.
QC Kinetics today
Seems
for
like,
your complimentary
Dodgers are
consultation.
in the mix for
Call QC
Verlander.
Kinetics.
Are they really?
278.
How about that?
22. That's not
The Dodgers might get Verlander.
So, I'm just sending Ken this for Cutler.
Okay.
Do you like something like Time Now for the National College Football Report on the Frangie Show, brought to you by the law firm of Woozy and Morcom?
Yeah.
did want to ask you guys, I mean, you guys know baseball better than me, but can the Angels afford to let Ohtani go to free agency? Can they afford to let him?
Well,
Like, how important is it to kind of get him signed to something now?
well, they're not gonna do that. He's not gonna do anything until the end of the year. But by not trading him, they send the message to him that they're serious about winning. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And he's not doing anything until then.
Hayes, I would just put
So then-
pronunciation.
Do you think the Mets move for like moving Scherzer is kind of like we're trying to free up to give Ohtani, I mean, everything he wants to do?
The Mets?
Yeah, the Mets giving up Scherzer, just kind of like this is a move for maybe, hopefully a move for Ohtani.
They're not getting Ohtani. They're not, the Mets are. It would have to be, that move would be, the Mets are just dumping. They're just dumping money. They have no chance at Ohtani. But the Angels do.
Time now for the National College Football Report on the Frangie Show, brought to you by the law firm of Rosie and Moore. That's fine, that's all it needs, right? The one time now for the National College Football Report on the Frangie Show, brought to you by the law firm of Woolsey and Morcom. That's all it has to be, right?
Yeah, there's not a tagline. A lot of times they'll put a tagline, just, that's fine for me, yeah. That's one if I ever have Tara redo some stuff. Oh, you know what? I gotta have Tara.
This is Dr. Steve Crenshaw, Assistant
We have a new producer.
Here's the latest
Oh,
update on the Jaguars,
yeah.
brought to you by Pat Purcell and JOI.
The Jaguars had a slow
You send that anyway, but I mean, don't.
Just to have it and then,
And yeah, you can decide which one you like better, honestly.
It just dawned on me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought of that. The only thing I could think of was Big Chief Tire, we cut out, I think, the 4 locations around town, and she could add,
Yeah, will you, do me a favor, okay?
but that's the only thing I know.
That's 3 that we can do.
That is an automatic reason. If let's talk faster. You can't help but talk fast. But guys like that.
You bring it back on?
So I'm very excited.
Mhm.
I just thought of that.
Saunders, and this has been your Jacksonville
I need to do it
Yeah.
anyway.
Institute Jaguars update.
I need to work on that tonight, I guess, don't I?
Team 10XL is presented by
I mean, that's just replacing the one name unless you have other stuff you want.
Well, no, I wanna do it, I wanna do it, yeah.
Call 396-5555, Jacksonville.
It's a Best Bet Monday on The Frangie Show with fantastic locations in Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now in St. Augustine. It's Best Bet.
$500 high hand Fridays at Best Bet Jacksonville, and $300 early bird high hand from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturdays at Best Bet Orange Park. Make sure you get to Best Bet to have an absolute blast. By the way, favorite part of training camp today, Frank? What was your favorite moment of training camp today?
Favorite moment of training camp, probably the Daniel Thomas pick, because I thought
Okay.
it was a very athletic play.
Hayes, what about you? Favorite moment from training camp today?
probably the Zay Jones catch.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous.
What about you?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I love having the fans out there.
Yeah,
Episcopal was awesome last year. They were wonderful to have the Jaguars there, but you really miss something when you don't have the fans. Yeah, I would say the Zay Jones catch was incredible. And then it was just fun to watch. Finally, the DBs were allowed to kind of be a little bit more physical with the receivers. And so getting to see Tyson Campbell go up against Calvin Ridley one-on-one, that's what everyone's been waiting for, us included. So that was fun. And they each, I feel like, won a little bit of that battle.
yeah, watching the fans, to your point, watching the fans watch them is pretty cool. I mean, those fans are excited, and the players playing to the fans is good too. Oh, did you guys see Baselli?
Yeah,
Skinny Tony?
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Skinny Tony, Baselli's Skinny Tony. I've
Lots
seen
of
now,
people-
and he's done this before.
Yeah, lots of people, I feel like, wouldn't have recognized him today.
Yeah, he is, Tony Baselli is down to about 265, looks great.
Yeah.
He's down to about 265, which is 90 pounds less than his heaviest. Now, in fairness, he hasn't been his heaviest in probably 5-10 years. He probably was sitting around, but he's worked really hard at it. Good for him. Good for Big Bo. He's worked really hard at it. He looks great. And but when I first saw him, I did a double take.
Yeah, at first I was
know
like,
better than anybody when I
I
did
saw
that.
Prisco for the first time today. Obviously, he's there today and tomorrow. And I saw him talking to JB Shedrick, and then I saw someone else standing there, and I was like, that's not Wagman. And then I was like, holy cow, I just had to question who else was standing there. It's Baselli, certainly not Logman, but wow, that means he has lost a lot of weight. By the way, he told me his highest weight was 355.
Yeah, and now in fairness, that was many, many years
Right,
ago.
but that's his number in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
How about that?
355.
Look at you, look at you.
Symmetry.
He's down to 265 now, which is not his number. So this guy Swaim Show,
Yes.
is he a thing? Is he a guy? Is he
We've
some?
talked about him on this show before, haven't we?
I don't know who he is.
He's somebody. He's got like 70,000 followers, so I guess he does radio somewhere.
I think we've talked about him in regard to college football.
Do we know where he lives?
I
Anyway.
will work on that.
What's his name?
SWAIM, Swaim Show. I have no idea who the guy is. G. Swaim.
Greg Swain.
Greg Swaim, okay? The very important Greg Swaim. So I have no idea if he's, at first I thought he was joking, like it was one of those, it was a burner account or whatever. Anyway, if you follow Swaim Show, and I never did until I saw these things pop up, he is telling everybody that will listen that Florida State, he's hearing Florida State has found a way to negotiate their buyout of the grant of rights down to $300 million, and they are prepared to pay $30 million a year for 10 years to get out of the grant of rights and to get into the Big Ten or SEC because they'll make double that. Now, he has no references. He doesn't tell us who his sources are. I think it's comical. But I'll give him credit. I'll give Swaim Show credit. He did have me read on. You know, I mean, if you see that, you read on.
He's in Oklahoma.
Well, and Florida State does have an important Board of Trustees meeting, I believe, tomorrow.
They do?
To discuss the grant of rights, but it's I think their only recourse would be if they're able to somehow prove that the ACC has been negligent in the contract.
Right.
Which
I think is what he's saying.
And if they're able to I don't know how you would prove that. It would almost be like trying to go, I think, and get around a ironclad prenup, you know, but certainly people try. You know, but the way those things are usually drawn up is it's an ironclad document, and I would imagine this grant of rights has to be that. So you know, you would think the ACC legally is got supreme protection in this, but you know, it's like anything in law. If Florida State feels like they can somehow prove that, you know, something in the document the ACC hasn't lived up to, then maybe that'll be what. But it's not going to be a buyout. Like Florida State's either going to get out of the grant of rights or they're going to be tied to it. I don't think there's going to be any sort of, because the ACC there's no win here for the ACC. If they lose Florida State, they're dead as a conference. And particularly if they lose Florida State and Clemson, they're dead as a conference. So they have no reason to negotiate it. It's only going to be if they lose the legal battle.
Yeah, this thing says, and this was 2 days ago, again from Jeff Swaim, that's SWAIM, Swaim Show. Been a long day tracking down conference realignment rumors, and all of it in tweets below. But here's the Cliff Notes version. Arizona to the Big 12 by August 1st. Well, that's tomorrow.
That probably will happen.
And with possibly, and here's the two new ones, Oregon and Washington going to the Big 12 this week, later in the week. Now, one thing he said the evidence, albeit circumstantial, the evidence he uses is logical. The evidence he uses is Oregon and Washington made it clear they wanted out, and the Big Ten didn't want them. That is true. Everybody, I say that's true, like I know. Everybody of significance, from 40 to Dennis Dodd, the people you really trust, reported the same thing. Oregon and Washington badly wanted into the Big Ten didn't want them. So now he says, Arizona, without question, is headed to the Big 12 by tomorrow, and that Oregon and Washington late in the week. Number one, what in the world does that do to Arizona State if that happens? Why wouldn't they be in the mix? Secondly, I'll tell you, Swaim Show, because of the way he said it, he's either the most credible guy ever or the biggest clown ever, because we'll know by tomorrow. He said tomorrow. He put a line on it. So when I got thinking about this, I want you guys to weigh in on this. This is really big stuff that nobody's run with. I mean, usually if somebody of significance reports this, it's all over ESPN and everywhere. No, and I'm not knocking Swaim's show, I don't know him.
Right.
But nobody's picked up. Nobody, this is 2 or 3 days, this has all been out for 2 or 3 days.
Right.
And nobody's run with it. So is he a well-known faker? You know what I mean? I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this.
Well, I mean, again, that's a great point because it was a fairly unknown sports writer from the Houston Chronicle
Correct.
that broke the Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC.
But everybody ran with it.
And everybody immediately was following it.
Everybody.
And it turned out to be true.
Right.
So all we know is the Big 12 absolutely needs to add another school. And it does seem like Arizona is, for whatever reason, going to be the school that is going to go to the Big 12. Everything beyond that, we know FSU desperately wants to get out of the ACC, but we don't know who their dance partner is. We don't believe it's the SEC because
Right.
Greg Sankey's been pretty upfront about that he feels like they're set at their 16. And you don't really know what the Big Ten's motivation is going to be because they're already at such a high number. Are they going to continue to add? So, you know, it seems like, I think we'll know more tomorrow on Florida State's end in terms of what they really have and are they really prepared to mount a challenge. But it's still hard for me to see the Big Ten or the SEC taking Florida State and another team. And it's not to say they wouldn't be great additions, they would be. But these conferences are already so gigantic. Are you gonna go from 16 teams to 18? I mean, at some point, it gets comically ridiculous. A conference is not supposed to be 20 teams. That's a league. And that's where I think it's gonna be difficult. But Florida State, I think, is really fascinating. It'd be awesome to see them in the Big Ten. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, it'd be perfect for them. It's the conference that makes them, they'd be making more than the SEC schools on the current deals. You know, and it would be more interesting because frankly, their football's kind of boring, their season, because other than the Florida game, and they'll play LSU this year, and that's great. The Miami game always has some sizzle because of the rivalry there. Clemson, because Clemson's been so good. But they play 12 games every year, and there's almost 8 games where it's a total yawn because of who they're playing, because because of how bad that league is. And if you put them in the Big Ten, then at least, you know, you're playing a conference slate that, yeah, it's going to have 1 or 2 games that probably aren't fantastic. The SEC has that. But it's going to have, you know, if you're 8 or 9 conference games, 2/3 of those games are going to be really intriguing games, and 2 or 3 of those games are going to be blockbuster games.
My biggest question is, how does FSU have leverage to discuss a buyout or agree to a buyout with the ACC when we've been told that no one can get out until 2036?
Well, nobody can get out unless they pay the money. What they're saying is they're gonna pay the money now. My question is, don't they still not get to be on TV? I believe, even if you buy your way out, you're right, the grant of rights means your television rights still belong to the ACC.
That's right.
So that's why I don't see how they can get out, but, so that's the thing.
So why would a conference accept you if you're
Correct.
not gonna
Correct.
be allowed to be on TV?
And why would the ACC allow a buyout of it
Right.
when, if they lose
Yeah, they don't have
Florida
to sell
State-
it, right? Unless there's part of the contract that says you can buy out for X, which we don't know. But I do know everywhere I've read, buy your way out all you want, you don't get the rights.
Right.
You don't get the media right. So again, this is this guy from 2 days ago. I'm gonna read this. This is verbatim from Swaim's show. And again, no one's picked it up, so the guy must just be a clown. But
He's an entertaining clown.
I'm reading verbatim 2 days ago. The FSU getting out of the ACC has been heating up all week and now getting information that this will actually happen. Starting to wonder if conference realignment will ever end. Okay? And that's what he said. And then later he goes on to say, this is yesterday, breaking, here's the update on FSU. As we're now hearing it, it will be a negotiated buyout of the contract down to $300 million. but paid in installments of close to $30 million annually. The Noles get roughly double that from the SEC, for the Big Ten or SEC each year though. Here's what he doesn't say. He doesn't say which one of those leagues won them.
Right.
This was 42 minutes ago. Again, this is from Swaim's show. This is 42 minutes ago. Now that the ACC may be losing their top team soon, it's certainly advisable to go after those teams instead of Pac-12 teams, as the Big 12 needs to go east anyway. Take the next Pac-12 team to commit, that's Arizona, and let the Big 10 do the rest to end the Pac-12 as the Power 5. Well, again, he's guessing now, so. I mean, if you think about it, the whole thing's really interesting, you know?
But he says they would negotiate the buyout down to $300 million. Why would the ACC agree to a buyout that's reduced? That's where I don't understand how FSU doesn't have any leverage for that to happen.
That's why it doesn't make any sense, because, and the buyout would end it. If Florida State buys their way out of it, then obviously they're removed from their obligation. So the 2036 would go away. They'd be able to keep their money. It can't work both ways. If you're gonna buy your way out of something, you're out. You're officially done with that organization. So I don't think it would result in them having to give money then back. But I don't know why the ACC would even listen to a negotiation. I wouldn't even pick up the phone if I was the ACC, because you've gotta have Florida State. That's your heart. That's the heart of your league. If you lose Florida State, you are dead. Dead as a league.
Right.
I mean, and so if you're the ACC, you have to do whatever you can to make sure that grant of rights stays in place through its term, which is 2036. So, the only way it would make sense is if Florida State can challenge it, somehow prove that the ACC is somewhat negligent in carrying out the grant of rights, and just would get it basically thrown out. And then if they got it thrown out, they could leave with no penalty, and then it does become but who is then going to take them? Because you don't leave the ACC to go to the Big 12, in my opinion. You're only leaving to go to the Big 10 or the SEC, and it just doesn't appear like there's very many rooms at either one of those ends.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is if FSU is gonna, great point, if FSU is gonna work its way out of the ACC, it has to feel pretty good about a landing spot, or why would you do it?
Right.
And why would you alienate everybody if you don't know that? I mean, every one of these teams that have left had a place to go, without question. That's almost come first. Oh, no, let me drag in Ballou in here. Ballou knows this stuff. Ballou's the guy at the radio station that knows FSU better than anybody. I'm reach out to Ballou and see if Ballou wants to weigh in on some of this stuff, because it's interesting stuff. Let's take a break. More Jaguars coming up. More on this topic coming up as well. 1 hour to go. This is 1010XL at 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the Hastings Injury Law Firm Studios on 1010XL. Hit that with Hastings.
Even more Jaguars. Listen to the Tommy Mac podcast with Tommy.
Oh, I was going to ask you guys, so in August, we actually have 5 Wednesdays. So would you guys like to maybe skip the 16th? Because you'll be in Detroit, right?
Yeah, that we should skip the one I'm
So
on.
maybe skip the 16th and we'll just do 23rd and 30th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I heard back from Michael. He said, we did unfortunately hear back from AC Designs today. They have decided to pass on the offer at this time. I think that with more advanced notice, we might have been able to make it happen, but I think the week's turnaround got them spooked, though their interest peaked when we first pitched it to them. He has more to say, but I am going to respond with, thanks to the feedback, we can certainly start the partnership with the Thursday shows after football season if that is a better time frame for them. We totally understand all the quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Just to at least give the option.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've said no, but at least give the
Yeah,
option.
it's a harder thing to do once we go back to 3 to 6, but yeah, okay.
But I mean, it doesn't
That's a
have
good
to be,
answer. Yeah, that's a
it
good
doesn't have to
answer.
be 10 weeks. It
I
could be,
agree.
even if we did 6.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
The choice to enjoy is easy. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your
I'm going to email Shane just to see make sure he doesn't say, no, just come 5 times. Because that would at least be $750 more revenue.
Yeah, it's up to you.
But
That's totally up to you. I'll go on either way, so whatever you want.
But my guess, I mean, he's only supposed to be billed for 3,000, so we're not gonna give him the
Right, right. That's right,
But
absolutely.
we should at least give them the option of buying a 5th that month.
Right.
Is fellowship trained in cornea and cataract surgery and offer practice surgery. Combine that's 30
us today at BarrierOrthopedics.com. And don't forget to check out Breaking Bow Sunday morning,
Alright,
7:30.
so they said no.
Home of the Jacksonville
I'm at least gonna toss back
Yeah,
right
what's-
away
here's-
starting later, but my gut is they're gonna say no either way.
Jacksonville Beach.
It's
You know
pouring.
what you can say when you send it, you haven't sent it back yet, right?
No, I already sent it back. I wanted to send it back immediately so that he got it before 5 PM in case he wants to pitch that to them.
Cause what I was gonna say is, what if we started in September?
That's what I said, after football season begins.
Oh, after it begins?
Yeah,
Okay,
after
I
football
thought-
season begins.
Oh, my bad, I thought you meant after.
No, like September.
Worry-free. Amendment has more than 300 certified pre-owned and used vehicles to choose from. Remember, Amendment
He's
Chevrolet.
usually pretty good at getting back pretty quick, so we'll see what he says. But my guess is he's not gonna have any issue with that.
What will Ireland do without us for a week?
I know.
So Amendment for Life is here. That's a good thing. Amendment. President of the car business since 1941. Chevy. Life Road.
Introducing an exciting update from Duck Duck Rooter. Me
Ready?
and my friends at Duck Duck are thrilled to expand on their already
Live
long
stream.
line of home and business
Up and
services
running.
with the launch
Hey, RJ,
Yes.
let's call Baloo when we come back.
skilled Duck Duck air
Call.
conditioning team is
Yeah, call him to come on the air.
refrigeration project.
You have his number, right?
Yeah.
Folks, it is
Right when we come back, have him ready to come on the air with us, all right?